Thank you. This regular board meeting will be recorded and uploaded to our district website. The definitive documentation and decisions from the meeting are in our meeting minutes, not the recording. Any use of electronic devices such as computers and cell phones that you see during the meeting are related to the business of the meeting. The core values that guide the work of the school district are respect, compassion, honesty, responsibility, and relationships. So that is our meeting norms for how we are. So we'll call our meeting to order. And note that our time is, that's what happens when you try to turn started is 5:30. And I'd like to acknowledge that today's board meeting is being held within the traditional territory of the Deneza and Treaty 8. We do have some additions to the agenda tonight. Under unfinished business, 12.2, recruitment and retention update and discussion, Trustee Snow. And 12.3, meeting with Moberly Lake First Nation regarding the TLE land selection of Cameron Knight. And it was Trustee Gillis that requested that item be put on the agenda. And I have a mover and a seconder for the agenda. Moved by Bill, seconded by David. Any further additions to the agenda? Calling the question then, all in favor? Thank you. We don't have any presentations or delegations tonight. We'll start with trustee celebrations, and we'll start with Trustee Campbell, please.
Thank you. First of all, I'm grateful for all the rain we're having. We went from being on alert to being on flood warning. And I'd like to thank you for all the updates that you guys gave us and the touch base on the wildfires. That was helpful for me. What I've done since the last board meeting, I attended the spring band concert, and it was really good. We have some talented students out there. I went to the Mal Murray speech contest that I judged. In Taylor, I went to an evening that was a most magnificent thing, and that was what the kids had done. They had gotten cardboard boxes and designed all these different things, and then they hosted an evening where the kids explained what they did, and the PAC had a hot dog meal that night, so it was really fun to go to. And I went to the Indigenous Learning Day on the NID Day at North Peace. And I will be attending retirement tea for Lisa Frankham in Taylor on June 14th at 5. The school is hosting that. She's been at the Taylor School from my second daughter. She was her kindergarten teacher, so she's been there a few years. And that's all.
Thank you. Trustee Gillis.
I attended, I guess since the last board meeting, we went to BCSTA in Vancouver, which actually I would say this year I enjoyed it, or I found it more relevant, or just the sessions better than other years. I quite enjoyed it. I was at I went to Central School probably 2 weeks ago to judge their speech competition. And I also attended the Indigenous Learning Day at North Peace, which I thought was great. I had never attended one, so everybody said it was quite a different format from the other years. And I'd heard some people concerned about just sitting there all day and what this is going to be like. But again, I found it quite interesting. Like to have that relevant history from Gary Oakert, because we hear it when we go to BCSTA, it's all about the Coast Salish, and so this was interesting to hear our history. I also was at the Hudson Soap School Sports Day, just spectating and volunteering last week. And that was it. And then I wanted to put out a little celebration for Helen during BCSTA's your campaigning, your run. I know that you went into it thinking this is going to be a long shot, and it's hard because it's a popularity contest. So I want you to know that that's half the reason I'm going to go for the Hudson Soap thing, because you just showed me. What do you have to lose? You tried, and it was hard. Anyways, I was proud of you. So thank you for doing that for us.
Thank you. All right, Vice Chair Lehman.
Would echo what Nicole said. Or not for qualifications or anything like that, it is where the numbers are sitting, so. I did attend the AGM as well in Vancouver. I did attend the public budget presentation, except that no public showed. And I did a speech, judge's speech contest at Robert Oakley meet, and then I was pulled into the library and they showed me the cardboard bedroom designs that grade whatever. Wow, they were very impressive. Some even had terrace extensions on their bedrooms. So, yeah, and well that.
Okay. Trustee Scott Moncrief.
I talked to all my schools. Prospect 2 had a fundraiser that raised $20,000 for the playgrounds, which was great. They got a program going there. So,
What did they do? How did they raise it?
they did some sort of carnival night, and
Wow.
they heated up with the co-op went out and served hot dogs and got the whole community involved. That's great. Upper Pine, things are going very well. Buick, things are fairly smooth there. There's a couple of things I got to work on. Some landscaping needs to be done out at further halfway. The last I heard. Went to the play at the high school. Well, that was brilliant. I enjoyed that very, very much. They were just packed. Look forward to doing that again next year. So.
Trustee Snow.
All right, so I went and judged speech contest for Ambrose. Very, very enjoyable. Other than one of my other judges who was quite annoying at times.
I'm a bit slow at the moment. Which one are you talking about?
I don't know. I went over to Bert Ambrose, the high school, ELC in Kearney, a couple of times and made an extra effort to make sure I went to all of them on the Tuesday after the evacuation orders and that went out. I had a meeting that one with Stephen because I wasn't here on the Monday meeting with you guys. So I went to all of them and checked to see how they were doing, just seeing if the temperature was high kind of thing. But no, they were all doing very well. The AGM, for me, it was kind of a up and down. I kind of summed it up as in the keynote speakers for me. I put in kind of a sports metaphor, but it was like a bunt, a miss, and a double. Keith, he was okay, I thought. Like I would have liked if he talked more about educational stuff, being with the crowd he was there with. Ray, I remember her name again, sorry, slipped my tongue. Jody, yes, I didn't enjoy it, I'll be honest. Just, for me, she bounced around a little bit and talked very briefly about stuff and it wasn't there. And the last gentleman, Dr. How do you say his last name?
Zhao.
Yeah. He had us all on our edge of our seats. Some of his analogies, the classical one that he said I really liked was, it was like driving Mercedes into the Great Lakes. Like he didn't know what he was going to school for, and I would just throw the money away, kind of thing. Some of the talks I really, really enjoyed the talk they gave there on racism. It was, and I talked to a bunch of people afterwards, it was about everything. From the analogy I keep on using to tell people is from the short bald guy to the person from Zimbabwe and everybody in between kind of thing. It wasn't just about one certain type of racism or anything. It was very broad and very, like, they did a very good job. The voting, you know, I would like to see you get in. Right? There was, you know, no change at all. It was just kind of, you know, hum kind of thing. And the motions, I mean, the voting, it sucked. I mean, the motions were good, but the motions, I mean, it was just the voting was very annoying. It made it long. And then the other thing that really kind of, for people like us in the north or out of the way kind of people, the one lady got up there and was, you know, can we extend this to make it longer today so we don't have to be here tomorrow? Kind of thing. Like, you know, we make sure that we have people there for the next day kind of thing. So, I mean, you know, they got to, I'm not sure where she was from, but to me, that's kind of, you know, like we make an effort to make sure there's somebody there.
Lenora out of the Kootenays.
Yeah, but we really make an effort to make sure there's somebody there.
Yeah.
No, but just try to keep busy, bounce around the schools. I dropped in and seen Stephen a few times. I mean, you know, I'll give him credit. I mean, his house was on alert and, you know, about to, you know, come close to evacuation kind of thing, and he was still holding down the fort. You know, I can't afford to lose a lot more hair.
For sure.
I got to think of it. But I mean, I'll give you guys a lot of credit. I mean,
Speech competition.
you do it. I'll give you credit. Like, there was going through probably stressful here. So I mean, you guys take a lot of flack for stuff. So thanks, guys.
Oh, Trustee Witten sends his regrets tonight. He's in the Northwest Territories for the funeral of a friend. I would like to echo Bill's thanks to our staff for holding things down in a very interesting 2-week period with community emotions running high. But I think they did a good job with holding things steady where we needed to hold them steady and getting through it. And as always, learning from the experience, hoping that you don't ever have to use that knowledge again. I wanted to thank everyone for the support in my run to be a BCSTA director. I learned some things, and maybe 2 years from now I'll try again. We'll wait and see. I participated in a board chair call May the 4th, and I didn't send a report out to you because it was a relatively light meeting. It was not well attended, coming right off of AGM. Bob Holmes remains our BCSTA liaison. The Ministry of Education has gone through every single board's policies and procedures, looking for what elements are in there related to a code of conduct. And what they want is they want to see all boards have a really strong code of conduct in place by April 30th, 2024. They will be sending a letter to me sometime in early June, giving considerations for us to think about after they have done a review of our policy. The other aspect of that meeting was, did anybody have any budget concerns? And the two hot topics were inflation and funding for exempt staff increases. Those were the biggest concerns. So in terms of fun in the district, I got to go to Explore Fest and watched big kids, little kids, just building, having fun, doing things. It was very well done. I went to the public budget meeting. Wasn't a lot of public, but that's okay. We held it, and that's what's important. I also went to the Beldonald Entrepreneur Fair, and I know that you're going to hear about that in Stephen's meeting. The NPAA meeting was canceled because that was the first night of everything that was going on. Finch is 50 years old, so I attended their pancake breakfast, their breakfast celebration, and I'm playing and doing preschool sessions at Finch and Beldonald right now. I did do the Indigenous Education Day, and if you're in Montmurray, I'm hoping they're still there. There were some soapstone carvings that were in the front case right by the canteen, and they were the quality that I've seen sold in gift stores in Victoria, especially the little Inuksuks. So I asked who did them, and it was kindergarten and grade ones. The teacher put they learned how to do it, first of all, in like a softer medium, a soap medium, all the principles of it. And then the teacher, they could pick a pattern, and the teacher kind of traced the pattern onto the soapstone. Took some of those kids up to 3 months to produce these carvings, working on them at various points in time. And to think that they were done by 6 and 7-year-olds is just astounding. So if you get a chance to be around Montmarie and have a look at them, they're quite amazing.
Mr. McColl's class.
Yes, Mr. McCollum's class, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So, moving on to item 5. Sorry?
I saw those
Yeah,
and they were amazing.
they were amazing.
Really, really nice.
Says Helen, who can only draw stick figures.
What are they gonna do with
And-
them? Just send him home with the kids
They'll go
or?
home with the kids.
Yeah. And the other thing was, sorry, I forgot, was the Indigenous Day.
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't go, so the day before they had a presentation for the students. So I went over and sat in on that.
Oh, yeah.
And watched how the kids were with it, and they were walking and they were talking about it. They really enjoyed it.
All right, moving on to item 5 on our agenda, which is the minutes of the regular board meeting of April the 23rd. And it's pages 6 to 13 in your package. So you have a minute to take a look at that. Could I please get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Bill, seconded by Madeline. Any errors or omissions in those minutes? Calling the question and all in favor? Things arising, just take a look at the action items from those minutes. Angela and I have had one meeting related to the Finance Standing Committee presentation, and it is similar in format to last year. It's not a letter. We can speak to 3 areas, and what you have to do is put in a recommendation, and then you've got 300 words to explain why that recommendation is important. So we put down northern factors, K-12 education in general, and try and fit as many things as we can into that area.
When is your presentation?
It's June the 6th in Dawson Creek in person, I think at 3:25 in the afternoon. So they are coming this year? So far. So far. I wondered if smoke and wildfire could become the next, but hopefully we're going to be out of it by then.
Do you prefer it in person?
I don't know, I've never done it in person.
Okay.
Because the last 4 years, it's either been Zoom or a letter.
I think it would be more back and forth, right? Than it can, you've probably done it in
No,
person.
it's not more back and forth. You just do your presentation, they take the information, and it's same as on Zoom if they have a immediate question for clarity, but then they'll get back to you after. It's
There's no
not
dialogue.
back and forth dialogue when it's in person either.
I've done it too, and it was very much speak, say a couple words, done.
Yeah.
Right. Board of Trustees meeting scheduled for 2023, 2024. is part of your agenda package. We did put that out for discussion and for people to look at. Can I get a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by David, seconded by Madeline. All right, in looking at it, we didn't get any feedback. Was there any feedback from the public related to it? Calling the question then, all in favor? Announcements and reminders. Doig Days is now, what did I miss? Oh, approval of the excerpts. I missed a section. Thank you, Leah. I caught your look. Item number 6, approval of excerpts of the regular board meeting of March the 13th. We can take a look at that. Page 14 in your package. Okay, can I get a move or a second? Moved by Nicole, seconded by David. All in favor? Thank you. Now, announcements and reminders. So Doig Days is now June the 8th. We were adding to the calendar the June 8th Indigenous graduation, but now there's maybe a bit of a conflict.
Yeah, I already heard back from Pat. The things are planned and booked. It will also be on June.
Okay,
So the Indigenous Grad Barbecue in the evening of the 8th.
thank you. So that is there. Retirement dinner is, and district long service is June the 7th. There are cards there. There's 2 new ones on top. If you signed last time and if you still haven't signed, please sign. I sent you an email that told you where we were at with it. I just would like to confirm who would like to MC. And if you haven't confirmed your attendance with Colleen, if you could do that because they need it for numbers.
I won't be attending.
I'm not going to volunteer because I don't know what kind of dental work I'm getting.
Okay, all right.
I've done it before. Just usually, when I've done it, we've always had 2 people come in.
And I don't mind doing it, but I'm quite happy to let somebody else have a chance if they would like to.
Yeah, doesn't matter to me. I can or cannot, so I'm not.
I may need some help to, I'll have the stakes done. I may need some help to put them into planters. Colleen does have the planters coming and we're not picking them up till fairly close. So I'll stay tuned and I may need some help with that aspect of things. You and I? MCing? Somebody wants
I
to
guess
farm
it doesn't
wrestle?
matter to me. I'm not.
Okay, better to have 2 minutes. Yep.
If anybody needs jumping in, whatever. But.
Are there any other announcements and reminders? Well, Pat was really fast on that response back to you.
Yep.
All right, senior staff report, superintendent's report, which is page 15 in your package.
Thank you, Helen. First of all, I think this picture kind of reflects how we were all thinking. Just driving through again on Monday, and I was singing in my vehicle as the rain was coming down. It has been a long couple of weeks, but for a number of reasons, this rain is welcome for farmers, for the wildfires, and so we're quite happy with it. In terms of my report, the online report at least, first item under intellectual development, Trustee Snow had alluded to Yang Zhao's presentation, and it was a good reminder for staff, for me and Angela as well, just in terms of the bigger picture around education and why do we do what we do. So I have apologized for the quality of the picture, but on the left-hand side, that y-axis, I guess, is the ability from low to high, and along the x-axis was passion from low to high. And, you know, we know with our own kids, we want to try and avoid things that they're neither, because not everybody's good at everything. So we're trying to avoid things that they're not necessarily good at, and they're certainly not interested in. And I like the way how he described those being, you know, jobs, hobby, but where you're really aiming is the combination of high ability and high passion to get to your career. It's a good reminder for us. We sometimes get stuck down in the weeds. You know, we're working on numeracy, we're working on some other things, but there's a bigger picture of what the child is interested in where we're going next. On that point, I've included here for the public and for trustees a template and a framework that we've actually been using for years, particularly at the high school, around universal design for learning. It's a fancy term. It simply means, from what we just talked about with Yang Zhao's picture, was trying to tailor our planning and structure not only to the ability of the student, but also to their interests, and how the student can become an agent in their own learning and becoming expert learners, and how, as instructors, we need to try and present our information in multiple ways, not always in the same way. And here's the next part, is we try and not ask for the demonstrations of learning to only be one way as well. And so I wanted to include that in terms of, you can dive into it, and there's more information online as well. Under human and social development, we did find out that our by invitation, when they went to Niagara Falls, the concert and jazz band both received silver awards, which was great in terms of their performance there. So that was very exciting, and you can tell by the picture that Mr. Price was very excited. He didn't send along any pictures of the students, but we're glad he's happy. Congratulations to the students and to the staff. Also under band as well is Ida mentioned the band concert. What I found kind of special this year, I don't know if we've done that in the past, was they had the grade 12 students. There's always been a recognition of the grade 12s. But this year they actually went up and conducted a piece. So each of the grade 12s conducted a piece, and I thought that was kind of special too in terms of.
So I've seen them do that.
Yeah, have you seen that? Okay, so I couldn't remember. We've done a number of things, but it was nice to see that take place. Under careers and skill development, Helen mentioned Explore Fest, and so I was down there as well. And they had classes coming in all morning and in the afternoon. The entire 2 rinks were covered. So there was enough activities for them to do in one rink, move on to the next as another group was coming. So they could spend a good hour to 2 hours there, actually. Also under careers, under the same umbrella, Helen and I attended the Baldonnel Elementary Entrepreneur Fair. It takes place every 2 years. So they sort of alternate between the Science Fair and the Entrepreneur Fair. It's a curricular event in the sense that the principal, who also has a teaching assignment, preps them in terms of their budget setting, in terms of the products that they're going to sell, and then they go through that together. So it's a nice alignment with the career goals. Yeah, so they've got some examples here and lots of pictures. I should have brought more money. But
It's okay, Steve and I spent for both of us.
yeah, I left broke. Let me put it that way. Under operations and HR, first of all, and by the way, there's another teacher received another award. I'll bring that back to the board the next time. But for this particular one, Susan Bach was recognized for commitment to education and emotional wellness of students through the Classroom Champions program. So you can read more about that. It's also always nice to profile and celebrate one of our staff. So that was a nice addition. Also under operations, I don't need to tell you or remind you about the wildfires that we went through. This is an example of the emergency plan that was sent home to parents. And as previously mentioned, I was in communication with the city and the PRRD around the alerts that were going out. And again, to reiterate, they were all very grateful that we were able to keep our schools open. And that allowed the city to continue to function, our emergency services to continue to function, but we were always keeping our eye on, how the degree of danger, and we're prepared to evacuate it. We'd already gone through that with Clearview the previous week, and a reminder that this week we're excited to have Upper Pine, Buick, Prescott back tomorrow, and then 101 and Upper Halfway on Thursday. Under Truth and Reconciliation, a number of trustees have mentioned the Indigenous Day. I also really enjoyed Gary Oka's presentation on local history. And as a musician myself, I also really appreciated the music, and the speaker, who was a very understated but really powerful speaker at the same time. And of course, the presentations and songs at the end by students were a highlight as well. And that's a collaboration, by the way. It was co-built, co-written musically between our Sabrina Brooks, our band teacher, and the Gary Oker, counselor at the door. And finally, to finish it off, just some celebrations to add to what's already been mentioned this evening. And you can read through those. Here's a picture from Baldoyle. And they're recognizing.
No, that's
Clearview.
That's a Gary.
Red boundaries. That's Clearview. And they're recognizing all of the work that was done out there in terms of the fire, which, by the way, a lot of locals were involved. It wasn't just emergency services. A lot of locals were actually building the fire lines and had the equipment to do that. It's nice to see them. Gratitude is actually a really important part of education. Hudson's Hope, Jump Rope for Heart. Nice to see them get involved in that, as well as their Ask a Cop. And I certainly know, I can remember as an elementary and secondary teacher, the students were always interested when the police were coming to do that presentation. And then congratulations to their GSA club on their crosswalk design there outside of the school. And Earth Day, so lots of things to celebrate in Hudson's Hope. That is my report for item number 1. I would ask items number 2 and 3 to be pulled out for approval, please.
Right. A mover and a seconder for Stephen's report, please. Moved by Bill. Great. Let's go through the areas of the report and then we'll pull things out. We'll start with the Human Resources Summary Report.
Sorry, yeah, I forgot about that.
Any questions related to that?
Item number 1, Human Resources.
Yeah.
I wondered 6 leaves of absence. Is that for next year or is it for the rest of this school year?
Could be a combination, Helen. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that, but I could find out.
Just seemed time going.
Yeah. Well, that would not be out of line both with current and with requests.
Right, let's go into,
I'm assuming you're each other later on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
item number 1. Angela doesn't want her son in her basement.
That, I'll just talk.
That is not true.
That Mr. Zhao or Dr. Zhao, I love that. And I've been talking about this little 4 period all called. I've been talking about this with my own kids, and they look at me like, remember that, Mom, because you're always, but it's just true. Like, you can't be good at everything, and you don't have to be, but they get pigeonholed into these, you have to be, and then, oh yeah, it was just so simple, but I loved his talk. Like, he should come talk to
Well,
everybody.
I went to try and see his slides haven't been put up. I don't know if they will be put up.
All the
because
slides were good and
I was
relevant.
going to poach some of those to use at other places. They haven't been put up.
I love that when the one question they said, so how do we get there? Like, how do we make, how do we get this into effect or whatever? He says, well, that's what I'm here talking to. Like, you guys can make these changes, right? Like, he could talk to teachers all day long, but yeah, he's like, that's why he was so good. He was hilarious. That was good.
I worked with them for 3 years.
I know, he would be fun.
Okay, the UDL form. I love doing preschool because if you don't have them engaged, they just go and engage themselves.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
Right? And we are proud of our band kids.
This year, I don't want to be misquoted, one of our students, Molly,
Yeah, Copenhagen.
placed 3rd for her instrument in the country. Very high praise when she was there.
She was part of the honor band too. So she did a lot of music.
Just back with band, when I went to the spring band, there has not been one of our bands that haven't played. The grade 6 band had silver, placed silver when they went the grade 7 band. They have had gold in everyone they went to this year. It's not competitions that they win the gold, it's where they sit and they have gold right through. And then the senior band and the jazz band both had silver at that time. It's just incredible to know that our bands are doing that good. Like and they're great to listen to. They are.
Is that Todd's?
Yeah.
I wonder where she gets that. Evil.
And the band kids love it. Like, now too, and they love the whole program.
For some kids, it's a really important niche where they fit.
Exactly.
So Explore Fest, lots of different things. So if you see kids with fancy hats and things, they were bedazzling and bejeweling and creating hats and flip-flops. And the entrepreneurship, yes, I spent a lot of money. I couldn't quite buy something from everybody, but I hit a lot of the tables. But what was really interesting was the degree of conversation they could have with you about the concept design of their product, how they had to come up with it, how much money. They had to negotiate loans with their parents for what went into whatever their product was, and then arrange to pay back. So it was quite interesting to see.
I didn't go this year because I wasn't able to, but I've been in previous years. And those kids, the items they have are top notch. Like the things that they do, you see at farmers markets that adults aren't doing as well as these kids are doing.
Yeah, well,
And it was incredible.
the slime I bought 3-year-old granddaughter was not age appropriate. It was all over the tablecloth in the house. And sorry.
You can send it home with her. There's nothing worse than somebody giving a kid slime.
Yeah, but she only played with it at her house.
Yeah.
Personal experience.
Yeah. So about that entrepreneur fair, you say that they switch between science fair one year and that another year?
Yeah.
You probably have the most experience with Bell Donald, but what do the kids like better?
I don't know. I didn't ask any of them that.
What do the teachers like better?
Well, there's
this,
less involved for the teachers in the entrepreneur
Right, okay.
fair, so, there's that. Hudson's Hope is the heritage fair as well, too. So
Yeah, well, we have it now for 3 years.
Okay, but
And
at the time, it was the only
Yeah.
school in the district.
Yeah.
for that heritage.
And I think when I've talked to students and I've talked to parents, it's a mix. Some like one and some like the other. It just depends on what you're.
Yeah.
I did feel sorry for one little fellow that had jars and jars of pickled garlic and pickled onions. And no, I didn't buy anything from him, and his little friends that were coming through with their toonies and weenies did not buy his either. I think he took a lot home.
Yeah, adults appreciate that.
But that's a learning experience too, right?
So, some of them, David, you would have liked. They were good salesmen. Others were a little soft.
Your staff.
I think there was good reaction to having this out.
Yeah, because I feel there, a lot of times I felt, maybe it was just me because I'm not on Facebook, but there was not, information was sometimes hard to get by. So to have this precise, just, I think was really good. I really appreciate it.
You know, say what you want about social media, but when you have an emergency like that, it's where you gotta be. Just the quickest.
But there was so much misinformation.
I know, but you can lead through that. It's the quickest way to get your, yeah.
That's what I heard about this, is I got a few phone calls about this, that they really appreciated this out because it got rid of a lot of the myths and the things that were going around.
I normally very, very, like even about my own stuff, comment on Facebook stuff. And with the school stuff, I like never do. And I did last weekend because some people were posting, the school doing this, the school doing this, and somebody else put, look at the school website, look there, they posted stuff. And then some people started commenting again. I was like, so I wrote, go to the school website like that lady just said, that's where the information is. And then pick.
Yes, no, it's learning.
Yeah, and then the Indigenous Day, that was good. That DeRoche Tristan, I found his second, like the second talk when he was talking with the fiddle. What he said during that conversation, I felt was even better than his speech in the morning. And it's like as soon as he got that fiddle in his hand, even his speaking came like he just was funnier and more personable. Yeah, he was funny. Like he was like a closet comedian.
After the dance, I said, I'll never sweep my floor and say,
Yeah, that's right, too.
I can't believe that woman's 63.
yeah, 63.
Clearview, not Belmont, Clearview.
Yeah.
From Boundary Lake.
The Boundary Lake folk. I did come away with a better, after looking at all the evacuation maps, a better understanding of some of the geography.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, I live in Hudson's Hope and I don't even know, is this crosswalk up and running?
Yeah, I believe so.
Where is that?
Well, this isn't the picture, this is
Oh,
a picture
okay.
of what they want to get done.
Right.
I don't
So
think
the
they've done it
city is going to paint the white
Okay.
We
typical
have in this
stuff.
sort of what it will be.
Okay, I'm like, how did I miss that? But yeah, I knew it was coming, but yeah, okay.
Just approval of the funding and.
You're really thinking you.
Yeah, I gotta get on the ball, eh?
You gotta go for a walk.
Get out of your house, Nicole.
Nope.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that power is back out, like on?
So,
Upper halfway?
yeah, thanks for asking. The last time we checked this morning when we had the meeting, it's not on yet. I haven't checked BC Hydro for tonight, and it's why we gave you an extra day tomorrow. We're not starting until Thursday, as long as the power is, and the water is on.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you check now on BC Hydro, it might be up and running, but it wasn't at lunch today.
So calling the question on Stephen's report outside of the two that we will do a separate motion for, all in favor? Right. We move on to the out-of-district field trips. And can I get somebody to move the motion that the Board of Education adopt the out-of-district field trips as presented? Moved by Ida, seconded by Nicole. Any questions? Okay, calling the question, all in favor? Moving on, in your package, you have the fees that schools are proposing to charge for the 23-24 school year, listed by school. Can I please have somebody make the motion that the Board of Education adopt the 2023-2024 school charges as presented? Moved by Ida, seconded by Madeline. A chance to look further at those and then we can ask any questions.
I do have a question right off the bat. Of agendas. They don't order them from all in the same place?
I can use my operational. You can order them from the same place, but different schools of course put in different numbers of supplementary pages
Okay.
and customize them and can pick different covers and all of those kinds of things. So there can be a variation. And then the other thing is there's usually a threshold order, and the more volume you are ordering, there's a little bit of a cost saving.
And the other thing that I noticed, fine? I'd have to check to make sure, about the lockers. I know when I worked at Kearney, a big thing was that you could not, and at the high school when I was there, that you couldn't use your own lock. On this one, it says that they can.
Upper Pine would be different than other districts. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so I'm just like, is it normal, like, is it normal school policy kind of thing that the school supplies the
It's
locks?
school by school. They
Yeah.
determine that, yeah. Yeah, so and then the scale of North Peace, of course, it means that there's got to be a different approach than Upper Pine, where there's really only the 7A class of 25 to 30 kids involved in it.
Oh, they don't, okay, it's not just those kids that get.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? I was going to go back and look at the fees from last year just to check, but I don't really think that most schools have passed on any of the inflationary costs. So
Trying to hold the line.
they're trying to hold the line, but I know that everything's gone up. Any other questions, comments? All right, ready to call the question? All in favor of that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Secretary Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Helen. Just gonna listen to me talk for quite a while. Quite the setup here. So first I'd like to present the finance numbers up until April 30th, 2023. 2023-2024 annual budget update. I always get this wrong. I don't know why. I just say that I'm going to come back to it.
Yeah.
The annual facility grant for the 2023-2024 school year. There's an attachment for that. The emergency response plan specifically to wildfires with an attachment. Verbal BASC before and after school care update as to the new sites that are coming in September. A motion for the financial audit services, just asking for an extension for KPMG for the audit for the ending June 30th, 2023, and then my HR report for support staff. That is my report.
All right. Can I get a mover and seconder, and then we'll go through each aspect of her report in detail. Moved by Nicole, seconded by Dave. All right, starting with questions, further information related to the finance update to April 30th.
Yeah, so after we applied all the expenses. Oh, sorry.
Were there any questions? So,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't have any questions.
We will let you make comments though.
No, I don't think you will. Go ahead, I'll wait my turn. We're at questions for me, for the financial update.
We're at the first aspect of her report, the financial update.
The annual budget.
No, we're not there yet. We're asking about this piece in your package. Do you have any questions related to the numbers till April 30th?
Well, I guess the difference in the LEA revenue from actual to amended, that's
The amended budget is for the full year,
okay.
and so this is just for 8 months.
So it will get there.
So it will get there, yes. Good question. Yes.
I just knew you wanted it.
Have any other comments you wanted to make related to it, Angela?
Yeah, you can see like the percentages on this side, are around 80%. The Alberta student revenue is at 92%. That's done. We've received all the funding we're going to get. There was just an issue with how they funded some of our students, so there's a bit less from the Alberta Ministry. Miscellaneous revenue is up by 6%, which is, well, it's just timing, right? Just for this month looks good, next year it may not, but for right now it's good. And the interest is already, we estimated 320 for the whole year till the end of June, and we're already at 335. So that's a good news story. Wages are coming in around 80 to 83, so close. And then the service and supplies is well under the 80%, but we're going to see that. I believe it will be brought home in May when all the spending is occurring right now. We have a deadline of May 30th for schools to get the majority of their spending done so that we'll have an idea where we're going to land at the end of June.
So do you find that schools kind of hang on till June, May, and then
Yes.
I guess they need to know what they have left and then.
I guess,
Yeah.
but their supplies are budgeted, so I'm not too sure. Maybe if something surprising comes up, better to have
Yeah.
a little more there than spend it all up front and end up with nothing at the end. So
It's not a huge amount, just curious about the Alberta students. So is that what's going to be moving forward? That the way the ministry that Alberta paid, or is that?
I
don't know.
can't. Yeah, I don't know. This specifically, we had budgeted the 85,000 from talking to them, and then when they actually gave us the money, there was less funding for kindergarten students, as they're only half day there, and then one of the grade 12s, there was some changes to their funding as well. So because they're per course funding, so lessons learned there. So.
Moving on to the 2023-2024 annual budget update. I did send a note to you. We had hoped to pass the first reading of our annual budget for 2023-2024 tonight, but due to circumstances beyond our control, we'll be doing 3 readings in June.
Yeah, so Helen took mine. Thank you, Helen, for introducing that. So the items specifically we're waiting around is the exempt compensation. We were told we'd have it by mid-May. We're still waiting for it. Hopefully I find out more about it this week. I have BC ASBO meeting, so I see on Friday there's an hour scheduled for exempt compensation, so maybe there'll be a surprise then. Another thing that another reasoning behind holding off is that usually we have to get the budget reviewed by the Ministry of Education and Childcare, but there's nobody there until after May 31st who can do it. So if we approve a budget and then they're like, not that I think there will be mistakes, but you never know, 2 sets of eyes are better than 1, then we would be having it done all over again in June. So that is where we stand with the budget, but I was going to go through some highlights if that suits the board. I did give you a document, but this is just the opportunity, I guess, to go through it and then ask some additional questions or clarity around things. So again, we're basing our budget on 6,010 students for brick and mortar and 274 for the distance education program. The budget supports a 6.75% increase for teachers and QP. Speaking to HR, we anticipate 2 new divisions at this time, which is just not necessarily from the increase of students, but just the composition of the classrooms. We are in a replacement cycle for servers with technology, so Rick is our IT manager. He's working with me, and we're distributing the cost of the replacement for the servers between this upcoming year and the following year, but it's still an additional $120,000. 3 initiatives that we're putting forward next year is numeracy, with just math programs going out to the district of approximately $290,000, literacy $80,000, and the 101 middle school initiative $150,000. In terms of SEL, we have budgeted for 3.5 counselors, which is counselor time for elementary schools, which fulfills the racial equity education, doesn't necessarily fill the need in the district. So in addition to that, we have 2 social workers and 2 youth care workers that are being funded out of special purpose funds, community links, and the mental health grant. We have also budgeted for 2 specialized positions out for learning services. One, an additional school psychologist. We currently have one. We'd like another. And a speech, SLPS speech language position. Another, we're seeing increased cost for equipment is the physical therapy equipment. It's quite old in our district, so we're going to update that. As we've seen in many areas of the budget this year, we see escalating costs for our contracted physiotherapists. So we're trying to balance the budget by increasing costs, but also and meeting the needs of students. I'm leaving that to Keith to do, but I think we're on the same page. Moving to the business side of things, we have an increase to the support for our accounting program of 8% this year. That they kindly give us a budget letter every year as to what the upcoming costs are going to be, so we know those. As we discussed, we have a strategic plan coming up next year, so we've put in funds for that, moving forward with that. Increased costs to the HR department for recruitment and retention. Again, going to job fairs, we're seeing increased costs to the Applied Education program, as well as we are trying to implement Easy Connect into more of our schools. Easy Connect is an online way that teachers can report absences and get TOCs in place without just using the TOC line. So both are quite needed in the district, so they work together. 2022-23 was the first year we actually had specific accounts for safety costs. So all the regulatory items that we have put through in the district of this year, it's a great tool. Now we can budget in upcoming years, and we've included any costs associated with regulatory changes in 23-24. Budgeted for replacement cycle of custodial equipment. We have quite an old fleet of custodial equipment. We're updating it slowly. We are looking at a new position for a purchaser in our district. Yeah, I see it as a need that we have both in a purchase order system and in getting just finding the right place to purchase the right items, getting a list of options available for us. For the facilities department, we increased 5% for supplies. For utilities, we're seeing increases for PNG, City of Fort St. John, BC Hydro, and TELUS. The utility companies are around 2.5%, and then TELUS is sitting at around 6% for the upcoming year. We are budgeting for 3 mechanics this year, and I think we're going to stick with that. We keep trying to recruit, and we can't find any. So I think we just have to stay with the 3. The 3 we have, they're impactful, and then to facilitate that, we have an increase to repairs and maintenance budgeted. We have budgeted for the labor market adjustments that were bargained from 2022 to 2025. So this year, the bus drivers are going to see a $1.50 labor market increase. So that is a great, hopefully, recruitment and retention tool. We'll see how impactful that is. We budgeted roughly 5 to 10% in the transportation department for supplies and fuel. And then we had a job evaluation that was implemented this year. So that affects many different departments, from instruction through to facilities and well, it is all support, but admin support as well as the transportation department. So that varies depending on what position you hold. So that is my whirlwind budget update.
Questions related to that, Nicole?
4 questions. Okay, the exempt salaries.
Yes.
Did they not tell us in November in Vancouver at that thing? What were we at? BCPC.
That they were going to?
That they were covered, and you guys were like, oh!
That was for last year's. That was from July 1st, 2022.
So they have to make an announcement every year whether or not they're going to.
They don't normally, so that was very exciting, but they haven't said so far.
They haven't said if there is increases, and they haven't said if they're funded, so.
What did they tell us in November, sorry, that we were excited about?
From July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023, they were addressing those wages in November.
Oh, okay. Okay, that was one question. Now, you talk about the 101 middle school initiative.
Yes.
Right now, what is that? Like, we're adding 2 grades out there?
We're adding, if I can, Angela, it's the 7 to 9 and some grade 10s. It stems from that knowledge around just how unsuccessful our students are being in those grade levels coming, for that drive coming into town.
Yeah.
The parents have been asking for this for years, and the board has said, yeah, let's give it a whirl. We're not 100% sure how successful it's all going to be, but we're going to try. We have, I believe, 13 students registered.
So they're going to attend grade 10 there.
7 to 9, and grade 7 to 9, so we've got a group of 2. So we've got 11 students in grade 7 to 9, and then 2 students in grade 10.
Okay.
We're pretty excited because the minimum service would have been more of an online delivery with an adult there as an EA supporting the kids.
Right.
We've actually been able to organize and hire some teacher time out
Wow.
there, like 2 days a week. It'll probably run 4 days of the week, similar to kind of like a Buick model, which is kind of how we started talking about this. And there are obviously costs to this, including the space that we need to move out there, the equipping of that portable, but some of the costs will be defrayed from the enrollment of those kids as well.
Right, okay. Because you said that was 150?
So that's the portable move as well as the technology and some desks.
So how will we gauge that success? Just by watching those kids and hope they graduate? You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to do to?
Yeah, I provided a snapshot of their report cards and attendance summary. And so we'd be able to compare. And so that would be clearly one thing we would look at, as well as in communication with the parents.
Should be up and running in September.
Where are we going to put the portable?
Me?
Go.
I think it's going to be by the gymnasium on the other side away from the road.
Buddy.
Did you say, Stephen, that you've hired or you have?
We've been able to secure commitments for 2 days of teacher time a week.
You've hired?
So we've supplemented or added, like for the key is going to provide some of that teacher time, but we've also found someone willing to go out there on a day a week as well, hired to do that. Yeah.
So then we talked about physiotherapy, how some of our equipment is out of date and we're trying to hire a physiotherapist. So if somebody came to me, and I should know this as a board, what type of student gets physical therapy in school? Like what service, like, do you know what I mean? I wouldn't know how to answer that. Who is getting physical therapy during school?
I'm going to hand it over.
Yeah.
I get to be operational. No, a lot of our kids that are in that physically dependent category A that have wheelchair mobility, physio will help with lists
Okay.
and transfers, splints, orthotics, a lot of that specialized kind of thing. As we saw in the last board meeting, our physio and OT put together some therapy programs for water therapy, right, and things like that. Yeah.
So do we get any funding from the Ministry of Health to provide that? Because if we weren't providing.
MCFD provides us with funding.
through the SAT, the school age therapy program.
Okay.
For services that are provided outside of school time primarily, but
Okay.
there is a responsibility, and every school district tries to hire occupational and physical therapists on staff.
Okay, that makes sense. And then my last question, you said the city of Fort St. John fees, well, all fees and utilities are going up, but the city of Fort St. John fees were also increasing. What do we pay
The
them?
water.
Water.
fee.
Because we don't pay property tax.
We, just for some locations.
They charge us for water? I guess.
Yeah, okay.
So just water?
Just
Sewer?
Water and sewer.
Water and sewer.
Together.
And garbage? Do they do our, no, they don't.
No,
do
they
it.
don't. We do our own, yes.
But it's, our schools are metered, like water metered, just like, okay, yeah, okay. There, that was it.
So you got some questions. Other questions related to the annual budget update? All right, moving on to the annual facilities grant. Any questions related to the annual facilities grant? I think if you looked at your agenda package earlier, it was kind of truncated and you couldn't read the whole report. I think Leah's got it in there now so that you can read all lines in the report. Have we always left an amount in here for the site upgrades?
Yeah, that's actually the operating portion of AFG.
Okay.
So that is where you, if there's an emergency, not covered by insurance, we leave an amount in there.
What would happen to it if we didn't spend it all?
Carry forward.
It carries
Yeah, it's the capital AFG that we have to spend. The operating one, we can carry it forward. It's just, there's no school is going without anything by having it there, but it's a great, yeah, and it's not like, if it accumulates, then you do a project with it, so.
So you're gonna get comments on paving? No?
I might, but we are paving school parking lots. We are kind of taking in turn, and you, Ida and Helen may be able to speak to it. I haven't been out to Valdano, but the parking lot there I heard is very hard on the buses, and there's a lot of
It's a little bit of a lake right now.
issues around the parking lot there. Like the buses are taking quite a beating.
Why do you say that? Well, because you sit in at DPAC and whatever, I mean, every school is like that, the parking lot paved, and if you keep on getting it.
And it will come in rotation. We have been rotating through them, so I'll just take which school they're from and let them know when their time will come.
That's, my guess is it's gonna be almost something.
And the school would be like where the buses go. It's really, they've only got a couple parking. It's not, like, I know usually they don't do the parking for the parking lots, but they always seem to make it where the bus lanes are.
But we did do Central, Bird Ambrose, Taylor, yeah. So we're getting there. I'll just, I appreciate what is the word? Warning. Not the warning. Heads up. Thank you.
So how does the expenditures as they're planned in this annual facilities grant align with the needs that were identified in our long-range facilities plan and improving our facility condition indexes?
Great question, Helen. I'll have to get back to you on that one. This is more addressing things that we see as a required need in the district right now. Like, for example, the HVAC, you can see that through the capital costs, we've put in a request for 3 HVAC. So we have a reliance on the Honeywell system right now. And we're finding, like, when they come up here, it's very, very expensive because it's no longer, there's no one local to help us with the HVAC. So the costs are, to get a technician in are very expensive. And then the product is not supported. So we're running out of parts for the system. So facilities, you know, they're making it work, but the priority this year is to try to do as many HVAC upgrades as we can. And then North Peace, we budgeted 300,000. That's nowhere near enough. But if we keep waiting for enough money to do all of the windows, we are always putting it off, and they have quite a bit of, they have a need there for the windows to be upgraded.
Do you think it's going to be at any point, seeing that we are so into climate, would think there should be a fund to get those windows up to?
A requirement to have them up to?
Well, not a requirement. I mean, if they want to require it, you could fund it too, but is there any grant?
Well,
Nothing down the pipeline yet?
I haven't heard.
no, some of the schools down south are doing it through that seismic upgrade funding. They will tell you that there's funding for the carbon neutral program, but again, there's no way that it will do what we need done.
And I believe those windows at North Peace are original to the school. So they're definitely showing wear and tear, so.
There's a lot of glass.
It will be so. And then Central School and the board office windows are in there as well. So that's our AFG submission for the upcoming year, and that's what hopefully we can get those done. The only thing that would sidetrack this is if something else happens that we need to turn towards and there, but.
So some of these a lot of these upgrades, like windows, for example, that's not our facilities group doing it, is it? Like, that's the window company comes and does. What about the HVAC? That's also, so the facilities is gonna have their own maintenance plan for the summer? Like, that's different from this, right? Like, they do their own little thing, okay.
Did I hear you say that you can't get any HVAC people here?
No, specific to the Honeywell system. We are finding that the products are where the support isn't there like it used to be, as well as we can't get parts for the units. We can get some parts, but it's enough. It's not a concern. I'm not trying to concern anybody, but before it becomes a concern, we would like to nip it in the bud.
School district emergency response plan, wildfires.
So this is clearly we've had wildfires in the area. So this is emergency response plan specific to the wildfires. It is a live document. As it comes up, we have to address situations that may not be addressed. But right now, we think it captures the majority, and we've had some good feedback on it. But if there's anything else that you've looked at and you think would be beneficial to add, or something that's confusing that I'd be interested in sharing.
I had suggested to Stephen, I think it's procedures. There are students and staff sometimes that have specialized personal medical equipment that should be part of the plan to take.
I like that it has the lines of communication quite clearly delineated, so that you have, if you can't catch 1, 2, or 3, you can, someone should be answering there, so.
I think the other thing that would be interesting for us to see would be the lines of communication
from emergency services into our system. Like this is relative to our system, but how do they get a hold of us and when do they get a hold of us and who do they get a hold of?
Yeah, thank you for that. We're putting out questions to them at this time for that very purpose, to answer those questions.
Because, I mean, when you look at this, the school principal is doing some direction of the emergency services, but there's communication that comes into us to tell us what to do too.
Well, just as an example, do you think they would have phoned you by Sunday that Clearview was in the evacuation order?
Yeah, that's part of the problem, is that we're not looped in like the PRRD and the city are. And yet we're a major stakeholder that probably has more challenging logistics than they do. So that would be my question, because it has to start with me knowing what's going on as I work with the principal. If you recall Hudson's Hope, I was working with Derek the whole weekend leading up to that.
I don't think it would hurt for you to summarize some of that and have us take it back to BCSTA, because we're not the only district.
Communication through that whole fire was terrible. Right from Forest Service to the PRD, down to Victoria. PRD sitting there waiting for communication from Victoria. It was just a gong show everywhere. So don't feel bad about being left out and held in the dark.
Thank you. We'll add that too.
Yeah.
But part of what we try and do in any situation is learn from it to make things better.
Yeah.
And
But that provincial view
Yeah.
of emergency communications to school districts,
where
as
do
a
we
trustee
fit?
and your
as a
colleagues
trustee?
would probably agree that we need to be looped in a little sooner.
A few years ago, at the Northern Interior branch, we had some paperwork and we tried to, because that was the last time when there was a bunch of fires around Prince George, remember, and all the.
Right. Yes.
So we have a bunch of paperwork on that too. So we could get a hold of them and find out if we can find that.
Great.
Yeah, because, they had started it, so.
Because it shouldn't have to rely on my personal connections with people, which were helpful. But when it comes to BC wildfire, I don't have the provincial contacts, so they brief everyone else.
But they should put you,
Yeah.
or not you, but they
The
should put the
superintendent
district.
of whatever district is being affected
Yeah.
needs to be looped in.
And we, at the BCSTA, the very first one I ever went to after I was elected was after that wildfire season. And there was a whole section on emergency planning and when school districts were going to be looped in. And there was to be a huge provincial focus on it. And it doesn't sound like it happened.
Maybe not in the north.
And I'm sure, I think you're probably gonna have to go through Cheryl again.
Okay.
She'll have the paperwork.
Okay. All right. Any other questions related to this? Okay. BASC, and this is a different use of BASC than we used to have a behavioral analysis that was called a BASC.
Oh, yeah.
This is before and after school care, and I'm finally getting it out and moving past that. BASC update.
Yeah, so pretty exciting. We are seeing a growing need in our district for before and after school care. We're currently transporting students from Finch to Duncan Cran. Sorry, that's not true. Finch students are getting brought to Duncan Cran, and then we are bringing them to the school when it's school time. So, and we have a waiting list there. So we're going to be opening a before and after school care facility within Finch School. We're going to be starting with 12 spaces, and we should be, as the need increases, we'll be up to the 24 if the need gets there. And then this allows for additional capacity at Duncan Cran for RO students who are bused to Duncan Cran, as well as for the need in the Duncan Cran area. So we aren't, we're seeing great numbers in that site. for September, so that's reassuring. And then another one, Rascals this is their last year of operation, so we will be opening up before and after school care at Charlie Lake. We're going to be moving it out of the school to the portables because they have the back portable, and then that's where it will run, and we are looking at 24 spots there. They're currently already full with a waiting list, so that spot should be full, which is great for the community.
Have we already hired the staff? We can't, right?
We can.
We've been pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
No, well, we have to put it out for
We'll post
We'll
it.
post it.
postings, yeah.
Yeah.
We've been
So I can't, I guess I
surprised.
should say I can't speak to whether we've hired them.
Yeah, that's me, you can't just walk in and off the jobs kind of thing.
What's
You
that?
can't just walk in and off them jobs.
No, they have to, they're QP members, so we
Yeah.
have to follow the process.
Yes. That'd be nice.
And one more update, we have a new before and after school care coordinator. So I'm not too sure when she'll be starting, but Alicia's last day was May 12th. And yeah, the new person, I'm not sure when they're starting. Who? I know the name, but just as soon as you said who, everything fell out of my head. Yeah, Suzanne Curry, thank you. She's currently an ECE down at Taylor, Scene West program.
Sorry, I know we kind of went out of order because we've been asking questions along the way instead of accepting her whole report, right? Oh, we already have, okay. Okay, then I do have a question about this. You say we're on a wait list at some places and we'll have 12 at Finch, we could get up to 24. So did I miss, like, have we created a policy yet that says who gets these spots? Like if 30 people want,
Well, I don't know.
because if 30 people want it and we only have 24, how are we deciding who's 24?
First come, first serve.
That does not seem like a good policy.
No?
Where's that?
I think need-based.
They're
Some people are just more in the know, unfortunately. It ends up being but the kids suffer for, in that case, the first come, first serve. The parents who are not paying attention, and the more vulnerable kids at home whose parents aren't paying attention don't even know that's available. So they're not the first come, first serve because their parents are not on the ball. So I just think you're going to run into that. You know, we're excited that they're all filling up, but eventually we're going to have to make a policy about who gets these spots.
Some of our daycares and stuff that are run through the schools, they do have a priority first of all. And because I believe like partnerships.
Yes, through partnerships, yeah.
But all of the other ones, as long as I've ever been a trustee, it's always been first come, first serve.
It's a slippery slope.
I'm just saying, I just, you see how that puts the more vulnerable population
Absolutely.
in, you know, and we're always talking about them, right? And how to help them succeed. And then you have to put all these services in place at the school for them once they get to school age, because they are vulnerable and haven't been, they don't have the at-home care you need. So, yeah, I can foresee coming up with a better policy than first come, first serve.
If I was first on the list, I got bumped because.
Bill Van Ida?
I literally had a cousin that took a camping chair and a sleeping bag and was there at like 9 a.m. to register for the next day.
Here, around,
Not here.
Oh.
But like that's, and there's places in BC that do that. Like you first come, first serve.
right, so you know which kind of parents are going to do that, are going to camp out overnight.
So my suggestion would be, it's actually something new that we're getting into, more and more of these daycares. And I think this should go to one of our policy
Yeah.
committee meetings. And we should discuss about what kind of policy we should have around these.
I guess I'm going to reiterate a point that I made last time. As a board, we approved daycares. We're now adding to daycare. We don't have a motion from the board to approve the expansion of daycare. And I don't like the fact that this is coming to the board well after the process is in place with it. I found myself in a situation where I was providing preschool programs in this particular school, and people were asking about daycare. I had no idea that this was in the works, in the planning and going on. So the timeliness of it coming to us is pretty sweet. Okay. And I'm only speaking for myself.
Yeah, I thought this, if I could, I didn't, I must have misunderstood. I thought that we could move forward with childcare facilities without bringing it to the board for approval. So that might be something that I missed the boat on.
Well, I think now that's under our umbrella with the new ministry.
We're being told.
I agree, but we also talked about it being on a cost recovery basis and regular reporting to the board. And so I'm not disagreeing with the need, and I'm not disagreeing with the plan. I'm concerned that it's come to us after the fact.
I think this is why we're policymakers, because I think we can have a policy on what we expect and what we would like to see for daycares and stuff. But I think that right now, the way that they're coming down through the government, that's an operational thing. So I think that we can have policy on what we expect, but I think you guys are probably being told you have to do this and you have to do that through the government because there's so many changes. That's why I'd like to see this topic go to a policy committee where we could have a discussion and to go forward from here. Like in our policy, we could say we want to know before, it gets out. Because we do set policy, so let's do policy.
I guess in my mind, we had that recommendation on the book, and daycare was to be cost recovery. We knew daycare was coming down the pipe from the ministry, but now we're adding 2. And Angela did say last time, we're looking at cost recovery, not right now, but further down the road. And that's just a bit of a concern for me.
I did have a question on the cost, because originally when FAST started, there were grants out there, right? Are they?
There's
like,
more grants available.
So whenever a new one, let's say for Finch and Charter Lake, do we have access to those grants?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We're currently we're currently applying strictly for, there's no renovation cost required, so it's just equipment cost.
Tracy went through some of those as well as we get grants for all those programs starting up. I believe we did present to the board, for example, some of those bigger projects that you're aware of that are coming down. And but we are sometimes just told, but I think the question is raised is making sure there's advance notice where we can.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that piece as well. I was waiting for this meeting, but I don't know if I just should have sent an email out to someone.
When you're in buildings and on the ground in community with people, as a trustee, and the community is talking about something and you don't have a clue what's going on in the school, it's not a nice place to be in.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from.
So we don't need a motion then to bring this forward at another policy.
But I really
That's a
think we
great
need to look at
And then I can do some
making
research.
policy on
Yes.
some of these things.
Yeah.
Well, especially we've now got the concern about access, who, and where, and how, and why.
Right.
It is first come, first served, the best way to do things.
And it also helps if we have policy, it helps all the way around on how to deal with these things. Because the government is coming down and saying, you do this, and then there's grants for this, and if we have a policy on it, it just makes it easier.
Helen, I would just ask for some indulgence just around the whole combination of Ministry of Education with the Ministry of Early Learning and Childcare is messy, and it's going to be for the next 10 years. And so, there's lots of different moving parts to this. And if you look around with your colleagues in the north, there's a range from absolutely nothing that's being done to people with centers and daycares and preschools and everything else. So it's a lot of unknowns for us too in the process.
The concept, though, of timeliness of communication.
Yes.
Sort of my key takeaway.
Sure.
All right, the last thing on Angela's report, can I please get a motion, somebody to move that the board extend the contract with KPMG for financial audit services for the June 30th, 2023 fiscal year. Moved by Ida, seconded by David.
Any discussion or questions?
When we decided on them, that was a 3-year,
That was 3 years.
and now we extend
We have a 2-year.
2-year
option.
extension, okay.
Yeah.
And then after the 2 years, obviously, then we have to.
Any further questions? Okay, calling the question, all in favor? That extension carried.
Thank you.
Any questions related to Angela's HR report? Right. Moving on to other reports, we're looking at the concept of BCSTA AGM report out. People have been reporting out about AGM all over the place in this evening's meeting, but I'm just wondering if people want to add to that.
Number 9, sorry.
Oh, no, we missed 9, sorry.
Yeah.
I missed 9.
Report
I
record
jumped.
meeting.
Yep, sorry. I'm jumping. I got my stuff rattled. All right, number 9, thank you. Reports of the regular committee whole meeting, May the 8th, which is page 17 to 18 in your package. I need a
I'll move
move.
the motion.
Thank you, moved by Nicole, seconded by Madeline. So we're looking at page 17 and 18. All in favor then? Thank you. Business arising. Nobody will be attending CSBA conference, so we will let those rooms go. Now we're taking a look at 9.3 for the policy committee, which is policy number 5005, criminal records checks. And we did have some revisions that are reflected in the document that's in your package, some wording order. So that's what the change is with the green. Ida moved it before it went out for notice of a motion, so now we need a seconder for it. Seconded by Nicole. Any further discussion related to this policy? Hearing none, calling the question then. All in favor? So now we're back to where I jumped to. AGM report outs. And you will notice that what we did for this meeting, in addition, I'm going to give you some think time for what you might want to say about AGM. We have put in the motions from our board related to assessment wait times and brought it forward into our public meeting, so public is aware of the advocacy that we've done there. And as we did a lot of work on the 5 motions that were put forward by the NIB, those we have included in our agenda package this evening as part of our public meeting as a record of the work that the board's been doing. So now we'll move on to comments, things that people did at AGM that they would like to share with people.
I can start. I'm going to just focus on because there were very many good speakers. I thought the student voice I thought was good, and seeing that we are doing strategic planning is coming up. So the question that I kind of looked at was because one of the questions they had asked the students was, how do you define success? And I just thought I'm just going to throw some of those answers out because that is kind of what we're looking at too as we do the strategic planning. And the one student said it means you feel confident, be independent, and know what you want. And I guess I put a lens on as when you think about when they graduate. The one said, you tried your best and you're getting encouraged to dig deeper. And one just defined it very simple. He said, success equals finding a passion. I thought, well, those are interesting concepts to, besides the 3 R's. I thought they're good to think about and see how we can implement them into, like I said, strategic planning. And then I'll just throw that out there just because I thought it was funny and I'm still thinking about that. What was his name?
No, Zhao, yeah.
How he figured it shouldn't be called artificial intelligence. It should be called intelligent assistant. It should be turned around. That I thought about that and I agree. So.
I kind of already said most of what I wanted to about the AGM. I was very happy with it. The student voice thing did speak to me, and absolutely, I think we're going to talk about framework presentations probably during our, but I would love to have principals start bringing in students for some of those presentations. Because one question, I submitted it, but I didn't get in fast enough. Or actually, they didn't have any time for the public.
No.
But I wanted to ask all those kids up there, and I'd like to ask any kid. Even my own daughter asks me, and I don't know how to answer it. But at least she asked. She said, "What does a school trustee do?" You will not find very many students in school district 60 that know what I do, or what I am, or or you just say Trustee Gillis is here to judge the speech competition. They're like, Trustee Gillis, like, what? I trust her? Like, I guarantee they don't have a clue what that means, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And
more transparency.
Stephen and I have already talked a little bit about next year, that element of student voice and asking perhaps for some presentations. It would be nice to hear back from the kids that just went to Niagara Falls in the van to find out and, have them come back and talk to us. And it may be us inviting, right, to have some of those kinds of presentations so that we are hearing from our students at our table, or going out and doing some of our meetings back in schools again. And then they could see me flounder through my papers. And, yeah.
I didn't attend because I had other commitments, but I did, from colleagues over the years that I've met through the province, I did have a couple of them reach out and tell me that they were very impressed with you, Helen. So I had a few of those, and I had done some campaigning for you previous, but on the student voice, we used to have an educational committee that we actually had students sit on. And we've had different principals at the high school where you had a leadership class may come, but then we also have had other ones that have just picked different students randomly. So I think we should go back to something like that. Yeah, I agree.
So, or we could put that on perhaps some committee of the whole for ideas related to student voice.
But they're part of the framework presentations is during those education committee meetings.
Yeah. Even if part of the ask for schools, that they bring a student and the students speak to something that they think is going well in their school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
You
a
wanna-
really low accessibility point to get
Yeah.
it started.
Yeah.
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 I hear you.
Not making it a
Yeah.
huge big thing.
Yeah.
So one of the whole concept of AGM and how the business went and the crashing of the system is really being looked at. For people that put a lot of work into those motions, you learn through the discussion related to motions, and when it's shut down as quickly as it was on some of them, where it's just push through, we miss that opportunity for dialogue and learning, and I think the BCSTA board has very clearly got that message. I attended Advocacy 101 and the one on the reporting order. And Advocacy 101 reminded me, like, we at one point had a very clear advocacy plan, and we kind of lost it in COVID, and the touch base with PRD and our municipal. And so I'm hoping that that's one of the things that we can look at is we know that if it doesn't get planned for, it doesn't happen. And so our own advocacy planning is something that I would like to look at. It also will be an increased focus for BCSTA next year. They're pulling all the board chairs to Victoria on October the 19th to go through advocacy. But much of what they're talking about is how to run a meeting with your MLAs, which through the NIB and through this board, we've done for a long time. So I'm sort of going, oh, we're head there. One of the things that they did go over was the difference between advocacy and lobbying. And that was quite interesting.
Can you
And
give us a quick,
pardon?
can you give us a quick anecdote for that?
Well,
What is
the
the difference?
lobbying, you actually have to register as a lobbyist, and it has to be much more specific. Whereas part of the accepted role of a trustee is advocacy to lots of people on a broad range of things. And I always thought advocacy and lobbying were the same thing. So that kind of,
And lobbying is more reactive than.
yeah.
So BCSTA as a organization, are they lobbyists? Are they registered lobbyists?
No,
No, okay.
they're advocates.
Lobbyists are more specific topics, aren't they?
Yeah, it's often reactive in response to specific legislation, and it's a targeted, specific plan, one outcome. So, and there is actually legislation regarding lobbyists and a definition, and you have to be registered. And some boards in their policy have laid out the concept of what advocacy they will do and how they will do advocacy. And the question was, do you have an advocacy plan in your district? And it was a good takeaway. There is the federal election. There was I'm not sure if the CSBA, I think, put out an advocacy guide, and apparently it's worth trying to get a hold of and taking a look at some of the elements in it. And then the other session that I went to was the one on the new reporting order, where they were presenting on it, and they had given us an advanced look at a document that's now in Jared's hands, and parts of it are starting to be going up on our website. I did pose the question there, what happened to the feedback that you got? Because we know in our particular community that we do have parents that are not going to be particularly happy with seeing letter grades go. And so I asked questions specific to that. And of all the groups they surveyed, the only group that really wanted letter grades was parents. And the communication was that they weren't necessarily desired for the right reasons. And if we do a good job with the new reporting tools that they're trying to put in place, the desire to hold on to letter grades may be something that goes away. I did ask the question, bringing you back the answer. Bill?
So I forgot about student voice one, but it brings back to my memory that Brian Campbell, just a couple of years ago, brought in like 4 exchange students. And they each gave a little talk, where they were from, what they're planning on doing after here, that kind of stuff. And it was quite interesting, because I believe 2 of them were planning on going to university in Canada. And it was because they enjoyed, and kind of thing. So that was one that we've had recently, kind of thing that's really good.
So part of it is deciding, sort of what we want to hear. And any of these motions, if you have a chance to talk to anybody about them. You brought up the concept of carbon neutral and our expectations around carbon reporting. Well, that's the one that BCSTA asked the Ministry of Education and Childcare to increase the annual facility grants so school districts can meet the targets that they set in the provincial government's Clean BC plan. That fits right in with that one. So those are there and now part of the public record. Anything related to any further questions before we move on related to AGM and BCSTA? Comments? All right, BCPC, Vice Chair Lehman.
Just a reminder, May 31st, 1 to 2:30 PM would be that May meeting, that 8th regional meeting that BCPC is putting on. Me and Helen have attended in person at Prince George. It is online Zoom. You still have to register, but it is on May 31st. I would suggest if you can make it, put it in your calendar and try to attend.
So, we don't have any correspondence. Our first item under unfinished business is the safe consumption site letter that we sent to Northern Health. And it's listed as part of our agenda to bring our response back to the public so that the public is aware of what we've done. We do have a meeting with Northern Health on the 8th of June, where we will be able to hopefully get some answers to some of the questions that are posed in this letter. I'm continuing to do some research around the province with other people's experiences related to overdose safe consumption sites. And prior to that June 8th meeting, I will send that report out to everybody so that we can be clear about what our targets and our questions are. Stephen has suggested that we also, in that June 8th, move the question and ask about vision screening. I got asked what our follow-up on that one had been quite publicly. So it's gone. I don't have any letters back, but we do have a meeting, so.
So do we expect a response to this letter, or is just the meeting the kind of the response?
I think the meeting's the kind of response, but then if we, after that meeting, if we have some specific asks about what we want to see in terms of safety plans, communication, things like that, those would be, I envision that we will decide we're doing a follow-up letter to try and solidify any commitments we are able to get in a public meeting. Not a public meeting, it's not a public meeting, or a private meeting.
Yeah.
With health. I'll catch you at the end. Okay, 12.2, recruitment and retention update. Trustee Snow.
Just a lot of it's curiosity,
Yeah.
but want to see how we're doing.
Yeah.
And also just talking to principals and teachers and stuff. Seems to be a lot of shuffling around town. Are we getting many new teachers coming in?
Great
Rather
question.
than the, leaving Kearney, going to Ann Roberts, leaving Charlie Lake, going to, wherever kind of thing.
It's a seasonal thing, cycle every year in terms of that movement. What I can tell you is that we have at least 8 new teachers hired from outside of the district so far. We're hoping to have more, Bill.
Yeah.
So there's 8 new, and those are from going to the fairs and those kinds of things.
So they are.
Yeah. Then we have a lot of our, so when teachers are hired, of course, it's on temporary contracts, so their contracts come up again. And then as per the union process, teachers can apply to different positions that are posted. So there's always a bit of a shuffle, but as you know from your experience, Bill, it can vary from school to school. Some schools have no movement, others have a lot, and there's a lot of different factors for that. But 8 new so far, and then a bunch of shuffling happening currently. And we've been, even just as recently as last week, I think Alex was at Memorial in Newfoundland for a recruitment piece. So we're seeing some interest. They described it as if we went through a dry patch in April there, and then it seemed to start to pick up from there.
Again, there's still, I haven't
Yeah,
counted,
there's still
but
lots.
there's still lots on there.
Yeah, a lot of those are local ones that are being filled. Our percentage of returning, like teachers continuing next year, is very high.
But as soon as, we don't have a lot of retirees, but as soon as somebody leaves, say they leave Cherry Lake and go down and go to Bert Ambrose, there's an opening at Cherry Lake.
Oh, yeah, that domino effect is
That
existing
domino
every year.
effect.
Yeah,
Hey?
yeah,
And I mean, we gotta fill those.
yeah,
Hey?
that happens every year.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, just, I'm always
It's a
asking.
busy time of the year.
I mean, the thing is, we can't we can't operate unless we have people to man the building.
Yeah.
People to buildings.
Well, I agree, and it's always becomes a triage, right?
Yeah. And we want to, do as best we can to avoid triage.
I with you.
I mean, our letter of permission, so I, give them lots of credit, thank them, everything, but, we want to do our best to cut down on that. Okay? And it's just, like I said, the number of openings we have, and I've been looking around other districts, either they're not posting yet, or they're filling, because we have more openings than a bunch of other districts do.
Part of that is a couple of reasons I can give you for that. First of all, yes, you're correct. Nechako Lakes, they post, I think, the 1st of June, believe it or not.
Yeah.
We've been posting since end of January. So we're one of the first districts out of the gate, especially on our rural and specialty. Some of the other districts, they don't have the same contract or HR procedures around hiring to temporary as opposed to continuing. And so they don't have to repost everything each time. So those are two reasons why you'd see some differentiation around the province. But I'm aware of almost all districts trying to hire TT2Cs as well as all kinds of other positions.
Yeah. Okay. I've always asked about it, but it's just like I said, we can't work without it.
We'll need to rely, I'm predicting, on the letters of permission for this year coming. But certainly from HR, from what they've told me, there aren't many who are on temporary who are leaving. Like most of them are staying.
Because anybody that's in letter of permission now has to reapply for next year.
If there's a position for them. If no other qualified teacher applies. So some of those will not be brought back. Maybe they'll go on the TTOC list. Others will.
Yeah, so we still have to post a bunch of those too.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Every time there's an LOP, we have to post.
Yeah.
but the posting has to run for at least, 2 weeks
Yeah.
with no
Yeah.
applicant within Canada. So have we already started to hire on LLP for next year, or are we trying to put certified teachers in first?
Yeah, we're always trying to put in certified teachers first. So thanks for putting that out. There's a 2-week waiting period and we do have to give that time. And that speaks to one more thing that's difficult for districts that struggle with recruitment is that there's always that last minute aspect to filling classroom positions, which is not great.
And you were on a call, is there,
Yeah.
is there any updates related to the Northern Recruitment and Retention Project?
Yeah, thanks for asking. And so we have this recruitment specialist who's been working with Niska, Stikine, and then the communities of Fort St. James and Hazelton specifically. She's been to all the communities, helped them develop some of their marketing materials. And so they're putting that out now. They're very close to be able to post some of the incentives that are included in order to attract people. The work of this pilot continued because it wasn't just about incentives, it was about the Northern Recruitment Specialist incentives, but now a lot of our work is focusing on retention. What do they do? When they get here, we hire them. How are we supporting them? So that's the next phase of this working group is a bit of a model around how to check in with them, how to connect them to mentors, and basically how to improve some of the retention associated with it. Remember, this is just one pilot. My understanding is provincially, according to this kind of workforce development plan, it's a big provincial initiative. They're looking across all sectors, because all sectors are lacking staff right now. But the work is going to wind up with the pilot, and we're hoping that it has made a difference.
And then use the word there, incentives.
Yeah. So you're aware that there are 2 other districts that I'm aware of that went ahead and offered incentives on their own. It certainly caused a stir. And I'm uninformed as to what they're doing about that, but what I can say is that VCPC is really taking a hard look at those 2 specific districts, and that districts would want to be very careful about going outside of contracts, going outside of agreements, and not having people like VCPC aligned. So I'll leave it at that.
We'll ask again with the Financial Standing Committee for something like the Northern Development. We brought that up before, but we can bring that up specifically. Are there any other incentives?
Sorry.
related to the pilot project that should be brought into the Financial Standing Committee presentation.
If I could ask that, in terms of advocacy then, I see the next step, because I didn't see the need for a recruitment specialist for us, but the next step for me is to really advocate for a systemic approach to incentives, in particular, that Northern Development Council example out of Alberta, where in years 3 and 4, not just teaching students, nursing students, but for us, bursaries for student teachers in their 3rd and 4th year in exchange for a contract of up to 3 years in the North. I'm asking the board to, again, to get back into that advocacy. I can supply more information. The second, if you're asking what I think is going to work, rather than this cowboy scenario of everybody doing something different and this one offering more money than this one upping their incentives, we're going to end up with a private education system. That's what private schools do. The second area I'd like to ask for advocacy on is things like a mid-contract modification, where teachers that go to Northern and rural remote start on step 2 or 3 of the salary grid. So there are systemic ways to do this. The ministry could develop a triage of the most in need, the most rural, the most remote, we have the evidence for that, and different ways to support them through differentiated starting salary points. They already do this in the far north. And again, the bursary program that I've seen out of Alberta, I see those as 2 very effective. I've put in a lot of time into this recruitment and retention pilot, not for our own personal sake, but just to help Northern colleagues. And it's been good work. But we need to expand to something a little more structural. We can't continue to do this off the sides of our desk.
The southern colleague that I think of would be like a Cranbrook, right on the edge there, and if they're affected the same way, kind of thing.
Yes, certainly. Dawson Creek here's an
Or Dawson, yeah, Dawson do.
We do. East Kootenays.
Yeah.
But my point is not only is that hard to compete with, it's simply a good idea.
Because we're losing, I mean, I've said this before, but we're losing our own students
Yes.
to Alberta.
Yeah.
They have to they go to school.
Yeah.
It's the closest school for them. They go to school in Grand Prairie, and then they stay there.
Yeah. I don't want to forget some of the incredible fruit that is being born out of this work. One is the post-secondaries are starting to listen about flexible teacher education programs for the North. Not only are they listening, we're starting to see some clear, concrete examples that they're putting forward. Micro-credentialing, laddering courses, people that can get their degree online here. We've been working with Calgary for a number of years, but we now see the light where BC universities are going to be offering hybrid programs for our kids across the North. So that, to be clear, there are still challenges, but there are also some things changing for the better.
Thank you.
And meeting with Moberly Lake First Nation regarding TLE land selection at Cameron Lake. Did you want to speak to that?
I just wanted to know if we were going to request a meeting or have a meeting. We talked about it the last meeting, but I guess, yeah, we just, like, I think they have it, right? I don't know if we've ever communicated, but my understanding is they got it. So I believe that whenever it transfers, or I just thought we should have another conversation now that it's official.
I guess the one thing I can say from sitting in on those meetings is that the transfer of title for us, because we're wanting to rent, they don't have all the parameters worked out like that, like they do if it's just a straight transfer and then Moberly Lake is going to be using the property. A lot of that finer stuff to do with, not the Crown, call it the federal government. A lot of that stuff isn't done yet, and that's part of the later window is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, like it certainly isn't done, but I think the part where they've been granted that land and it will be theirs at some point is official now. So it's just like if we had a request come to us next week about some major investment in an asset out there, I think we would probably hold off at this point, right? Because we don't know where things stand. So I think another conversation with them is timely.
So the way I understood what you said though, the pieces aren't in place yet.
That
So
was
if you have
the
a
way I
convers-
understood it.
If you have a conversation with them, we still won't have answers because
Well,
they
some
don't
of
know
the,
either.
that last meeting, Canada didn't have the processes all worked out with regards to, because my understanding is Cameron Lake is going to be added as reserve lands. And there's a lot of rules around processes for renting reserve lands and some things that you have to go through that were lengthy. And we had Moberly Lake saying, well, we don't want to do it that way. So some of the doing it differently is still not worked out, I guess is what I'm saying, was my understanding.
I think that's my understanding too. I think the only thing that's been worked out is, yes, they were granted that. They asked for it, they have been given it. It's not signed and sealed, but at some point they will be the owners of that, whether it's reserve or. So again, because we have a lot of money out there and things break down all the time and we're always adding to that investment. Obviously, we wouldn't at this point, but how long do we stay in this holding pattern, right? Like until we do keep investing or move somewhere else. And I just remember when we reached out to them last time, they were happy. They were like, thank you. I want to have a conversation with you guys. We won't be bad landlords, so I just think the more conversations you have, the better things usually work out.
And I don't even know if we start with Moberly, if we have to start with Myrrh.
I think it's Moberly first. I think, I don't know. They would let you know.
That's how much frustration.
Pardon?
That's how much frustration.
I thought the Myrrh were the harder ones to work with.
Well, but Myrrh is what puts Moberly, Canada, and everybody together to have a conversation. So, and I'm not sure who our Myrrh contact is at this point because they did some changing within that department. So, I mean, we can ask some questions and bring it back and see. How are other people feeling about the need?
Well, I think until we have a little bit more information, I mean, it's good to have it on our radar that we want to do this, but until we have a little bit more information, we're not even sure which one, like you said, we should be meeting with first, or who should be at the meeting. Maybe we need a three-party meeting or
Where
something.
exactly
Where?
what state
So,
is
but-
that?
I think we have to be aware of it and keep it on our radar. And
State of the nation. Not the right term. Nation. Okay, try and find some more.
'cause, I mean, you don't want to go ahead and meet with someone without a third party, if a third party has to be involved, because then it will just have some confusion.
Kind of, the third party kind of.
Yeah,
Good.
I know.
All right. I don't have any other new business, and we don't have PRNT QP District Parent Advisory Council. Questions from the press and the public. I let you jump in when I shouldn't have, and I got the look.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
This letter to Northern Health, can we share that?
It's part of our public domain package, yes.
Okay. As Deborah said, the press, have they got a hold of it? This would be really help the whole cause for not just you, but the whole community.
Even the downtown core.
If that was in the press.
We don't take our correspondence and give it to the press, but what they get is they get our agenda package every single time.
Yeah.
So that letter will be in the press's hands because it was
Okay.
part of our agenda package.
I'd be willing to walk this down there and say, will you publish it? And I'll pay for it.
That's your right as a citizen.
But I won't do it behind your back.
No, it's public domain questions and
'Cause
public
this is-
domain that.
This is, everybody's worried about this. PRD, City Hall, the school board. businesses. I just think it would be a good idea, if I can.
You can, right? You can do what you want with that letter, because it's public. If the press was here tonight, they'd have that
They
agenda.
have that letter, they have that letter as part of our agenda package.
Yeah, they already have
We
it.
have it on Friday, they just have to, it's a whole package and it's in there.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of times they sort through, that's it.
Well, and I have to tell you, we're in relationship building because the person that we have done most of our
Yeah.
work with has
Yeah.
left town.
Yes, he's
So,
gone.
And we know the other media in town is very woke and won't put anything negative about this stuff in.
They won't publish it at all.
I will be going to a PRD meeting and speaking on these fires and the things that they haven't been communicating with people. They actually, one of the press, Glenn put an article out in the paper saying the people in Boundary Lake were out fighting the fire and endangering the lives of the firefighters. Now, just for your knowledge, there was 4 firefighters on the ground for that fire. There was 2 helicopters in the air. The rest was done with local residents, and the Forest Services were so happy with the locals and the way they fought the fire and what they did. It was a huge success for the people on the ground working together without Victoria trying to run the show. Now, up here at 74, there were 6 cats they hauled up and were sitting on the ground, and they can't go to work till June 1st because they don't have a contract. If it wasn't for the local people in this whole country standing up as a community, coming together and fighting these fires, it would be way worse than it was. Also, I was taking lots of calls about police, fish and game threatening to take children away because they were refused to evacuate the area. Now, that is a case-by-case thing, but we're dealing with 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old farm kids that know how to help pull cows, know how to run a tractor, put gas in pumps, and do whatever needs to be done. And some of these farms were 30 kilometers away from the fire. I'm just letting you guys know I'm not looking for a response to it, but there's a whole lot of things that were being mandated from Victoria into this communities that had no business being mandated. Other than that, thank you, folks. Please keep up the good work. Like, I know it's kind of a thankless job and you get more ridicule than you get blessings. But you guys, I think, are doing a real good job. And I've been going out of my way to defend the school district on a lot of this woke stuff and saying that we have a good bunch of people in our schools, our school board here, who have ethical standards, and so keep up the good work, folks.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming.
You guys didn't say?
Nope, ditto.
And if that's it, we'll leave.
Sorry?
And if that's the end,
Yes.
we'll leave.
That's
it?
That is it. I'm just about to say, can I get a motion to move into camera, please? Moved by Bill, seconded by David. All in favor? Leah, please stop the recording. All right, so we're bringing forward the in-camera motions for implementation. Ida has moved it, seconded by Bill. All in favor? Looking now for a motion to adjourn. Moved by David, seconded by Bill. All in favor? Okay, we're adjourned. Stop recording, please, Leah.
You have a question, Leah?